You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Horsemanship Radio. I'm Debbie Loucks. Horsemanship Radio airs on the 1st and the 15th of the month. And this is a program I never imagined I would have to make. My father, Monty Roberts, passed away on July 31st at the age of 91. Over these past days, I've heard from people all over the world sharing what Dad meant to them, sometimes because they met him, sometimes because they watched him work with a horse, read one of his books, or studied his methods, and many never met him at all. But somehow his message changed the way that they thought about horses. As I considered what I wanted to share with you today, I began looking back through the hundreds of hours we've recorded here on Horsemanship Radio. I wasn't looking for the biggest story, the most famous horse, or even the explanation of join-up. I was listening for Dad, and I came to this conversation. We recorded it in February of 2023, and the subject was Dad's lifetime goals. So what strikes me now is that these goals weren't really about what he had accomplished. They were about what he still wanted to accomplish for the horse. Dad believed that we should always remain students of the horse. He believed we could do better. And throughout his life, he challenged people to question traditions that caused fear or pain and to find another way. His life work remained and rested on a remarkably simple idea. Violence is never the answer. The horse has something to say if you're willing to listen. So today, rather than spending this program talking about my father, I want you to hear from him. This begins something I'd like to call from the Monty Roberts Archive. From time to time, I want to return to these conversations that Dad and I shared over the years. His stories, his lessons, his questions, and most importantly, the things that he wanted the next generation of horsemen and horsewomen to understand. Because while Dad is no longer here to teach us something new, we are certainly not finished learning from him. Here is Monty Roberts in his own voice, talking about a lifetime devoted to doing right by the horse.
And I'm sitting here thinking about how it all started and what my goals are. My life's goals, in other words. And I think back on it, and not very many children can say that the worst years of their lives was up to 9 or 10. Shouldn't be that way. But for me, it was. The first 9, 10 years of my life was left up to survival. It wasn't until 1981 that the CAT scan and the MRI came to California to find that I had 72 prepubescent fractures. None from horses. All from a father that demanded from me perfection, otherwise a beating. My childhood was racked with violence. And it was in the 40s, wasn't it? I mean, I started in 1939 to do stunts for the movies. I was Liz Taylor in 1943 in National Velvet. That's me. All those cross-country jumps, that's me. Survival was the key goal of mine till I was about 9 or 10. And after that, it was win in order to survive, because my father insisted on winning. I had to win everything. I go to school a couple of times a month to take the test because you had to prove you were getting an education, and they had a wonderful teacher with me. And she kept me ahead of my regular class. Sister Agnes Patricia always would say to me, the way out of this, Monty, is to get a good education. Looking back on it, sure, I was trying to survive. Sure, it was awful. It was horrible. But wasn't it maybe a blessing in disguise in that I went away from violence, broke the chain, and was obsessed with getting a good education? Winning to survive was one of my first goals. And the education was a part of that winning. There's no question about that. Behavioral sciences became my education. And this is the way I started with my horses. This is Ginger, my first horse, age 4. Horses were not only my life, they were everything to me. Every single thing you can think of was related to horses for me. Where have you ever heard of a young child who thought enough of his horses to go to their stable and take a piece of wood off the wall to put it in a case like this? My mother helped me with that. Put it in a case because someday I want to remember Ginger. And this is a piece of wood from his stall where he lived when I was growing up. It was hands-on horses and the minds of horses, the thoughts of horses and why they do things, and the direction to take them to cause them to want to do their work, never to make them do their work. 1 to 10. Obsessed with getting it right. Obsessed with making goals for my life that I look back on now at age 84 and realize how important it was to me to set goals and cause them to be successful. Okay, so here we are in the saloon of our home. I got this only 20 years after we moved in here. We've been here 53 years. But it's a cowboy saloon. This is where the guys and I would come with mud on our boots and stuff like that. But also it was a collection of trophies and things, accomplishments that I had in the horse industry and the rodeo industry too. Showing horses from the saddle turned out to be a huge part of my life's goals. And since we're in the saloon and I have a pool table, a pool cue is a good pointer. And that trophy, that buckle right there, is for a world championship. My first world championship. It'll say on it 1950. I was 15 years old. And I won the world championship in horsemastership, which means you had days of testing about anatomy and parts of the horse's equipment and everything, and then riding 4 different disciplines. My first world championship, right there. All of these buckles are for collective championships of one sort or another. A world championship here in cutting, a world championship here in bulldogging, team roping over here, and so forth and so on. The room is full of it. Life's goals. Be obsessed with your life's goal and go for it. Even if it's just one, go for it. These are all collective championships. World championships, one of my life's goals.
A Minute with Monty. One of the things that Dad's taught me over the years is that recovery is just as important as training. Every horse works differently and ages differently and tells us in different ways how they're feeling. The better we become at listening, the better horsemen we become. People often use the words rest and recovery as if they mean the same thing. Horses have taught me that they're different. Rest simply means stopping work. Recovery is what happens afterward. It's the body's opportunity to restore healthy muscles and replenish energy, improve circulation, and prepare for whatever comes next. A horse that's standing quietly may be resting, but that doesn't always mean that they've recovered as well as they could. That's why we pay attention to the little things: good nutrition, fresh water, thoughtful grooming, turnout, gentle movement, and tools that help horses feel comfortable. Recovery isn't about doing one big thing, it's about doing many small things well. One simple way we help our horses here at the International Learning Center is with our Dry Me USA solarium. The gentle infrared warmth helps relax the muscles, encourages healthy circulation, and helps horses feel comfortable before and after work. It's one more way that we can listen to the horse's needs instead of just asking the horse to adapt to us. Because when we invest in recovery, we're investing in tomorrow's ride. 1 Minute with Monty is brought to you by Dry Me USA Solariums, America's #1 horse solarium. Learn more at drymeusa.com, because if you listen to your horse will listen to you. Learning with Monty, presented by Monty Roberts University. Why do horses learn from the release, not the pressure? It's one of those most important lessons that a horse can teach us. Pressure gets the horse's attention, but the release is what teaches. Think about asking a horse to step sideways, lower his head, or move forward. The instant the horse makes the right effort, even the smallest try, we soften, we relax, and release the pressure. In that moment, the horse discovers, yes, that's the answer. If we continue applying pressure after the horse has responded correctly, we don't reinforce the lesson, we create confusion. The release is the horse's reward, and good timing is what makes great teachers. Over the years, I've found that horses aren't looking for someone stronger, they're looking for someone clearer. The better your timing, the faster your horse learns, and the more willing he becomes to learn again. Want to explore today's lessons in greater depth? Visit MontyRobertsUniversity.com, where you'll find hundreds of instructional videos, detailed lesson notes, practical quizzes, and a worldwide community learning the principles of join-up and Monty Roberts' nonviolent approach to training. Because if you listen to your horse will listen to you.
You know, I guess everybody is entitled to one sort of offbeat life's goal. Huh? But my last year in high school, I went out for and played football. And it was quite interesting because during the course of doing that, I decided I wanted to be a champion football player. I wasn't big enough, and I wasn't fast enough, or probably athletic enough. But I wanted it so bad. And a fellow who was coaching a local university or college in Salinas, California, came to me and he convinced me to come there and go out for the team. We ended up winning a national championship for the team. I mean, it was a life's goal. And I got there. And I don't accept failure. I want to win, and I want to succeed. You know, at age 21, 22, I was a cowboy, nothing but a cowboy. And I wanted to win world championships in the rodeo arena. And so I started to rodeo, and my first event that I was doing well in was team roping. And it's the year we got married, 1956. And the finals were on the week we were getting married, and they were in Colorado Springs. But I had enough points that I didn't go to the finals. We got married. And my teammates that I traveled with brought the saddle home to me and threw it down and said, "You win that world championship without even going to the finals." And this is it, the saddle that was given for the World Championship in team roping, 1956. And just over there is the bulldogging saddle, which happened in 1957, the very next year. I went to the finals, and I had to be under 4 seconds on my last steer to win. I didn't have enough points to just glide through. And I was 3.8, and I won the World Championship in bulldogging. I had already won 11 world championships. And a very wealthy man came to me and said, I want you to stop showing horses in the saddle, and I want you to produce race horses for me. I want to build the best racing operation you could imagine. And he sent me all over the world, and I studied everywhere I could the facilities that you need for a breeding farm. And I created Flaggers Up Farms. And we had a 5-year contract. And in those 5 years, we produced 12 champions in racing. Naturally, they didn't come in the first 2 years. They came in 3, 4, and 5 and went on until 1978. And after 1978, we never put any more plaques on the board. If we had, there wouldn't just be 200 of them up here. One here from Australia is called Tobin Bronze. And he was a fantastic horse that was in the early days, in the 60s, that I had him. But anyway, we did it, and we made champions. And the champions went on. And the next goal was to produce 2-year-olds for racing for other people to buy. So for 18 years, I bought yearlings to be sold as 2-year-olds ready to go racing. Yeah, Alleged is one of those. He's up here. He came early, 77 or something. That's about the last ones that went on this board. Champion after champion. You know, there's been other goals in my life, which have come true and done well for me. But it's enough now. I want to finish up with 2 of the most important ones. And in the 1989-90 era, what did I get but a call from Queen Elizabeth II that she wanted to see my work. She had read about it and it seemed unreal and she wanted to see it. So they took me to Windsor Castle, just outside of London in England. And there they have a riding hall, and Windsor Castle is the home of Queen Elizabeth II. And I did 23 horses in 5 days, taking their first saddle and first rider. And Her Majesty sat me down and said, "There has to be a book. And it must tell about your life. What caused you," she said, "to change everything around 100%? And it works. I don't believe it, but I want this for all the horses of the world." And at that time, I talked to her about what it's doing for people, too. Veterans and domestic violence, youth at risk, and that sort of thing. And the Queen said, "I want you to do the veterans in England and my yearlings, thoroughbreds going to racing." Life's goal? How could I have had those circumstances to be a life's goal? I never could have dreamed it. And then Her Majesty saying, there has to be a book. The Man Who Listens to Horses was the first book. Now there's 9 because of her influence. The Man Who Listens to Horses was published first in 1996, in England first, because New York didn't want it. Horse books, they said, they don't sell but 300 copies or something, and we don't want it. But a year later, they said, we want it. And a year later, the New York Times published a full page that my book, The Man Who Listens to Horses, had been on the New York Times bestseller list for over a year. And it turned out to be 58 weeks before it left the list. Life's goal? I never even had a life's goal to write a book, let alone a New York Times bestseller. I am the only horseman on earth to have a book on the New York Times bestseller list about horses and his life. Ever. I am the luckiest man in the world. And the harder I work, the luckier I get. Okay, so let me tell you that I bought an antique in Toronto, Canada. It had been in a World's Fair, was a doll case originally. All hand-rolled glass, old glass. I was talking to the lady and Pat was looking around some other antiques. And I gave her a credit card. And I said, I want that because I want it for a bookcase for the books I'm going to write. And when Pat heard about it, she was livid. And she said, you paid that much money for an antique that you've got one book? It was 1996 and we were going through the process of launching The Man Who Listens to Horses. Now it's full. And Pat's fine with it now because it's a beautiful case. And they never broke a glass when they delivered it to California. It's incredible. Life's goals. Some of them we don't even know about when we get started. It just happens that they're there and you say, let's go. Let's do it. Make it work.
Listening to Dad's words now, they mean something different to me than they did when we first recorded them, but perhaps the most important thing hasn't changed. The work continues. Dad spent a lifetime asking people to consider the horse's point of view, to replace force with communication, fear with trust, and tradition with a willingness to learn something better. That knowledge was never meant to belong only to Monty Roberts. He wanted us to use it. He wanted us to teach it, and he wanted the next generation to take it further than he could. That is why the Monty Roberts International Learning Center will continue welcoming students from around the world to learn these concepts with horses here in California. And through the Monty Roberts University, Dad's teaching remains available to anyone, anywhere in the world who wants to become a better student of the horse. I think that's one of the greatest gifts he's left us. There's still so much to learn, and there are still horses waiting for us to listen. Thank you for joining me today, and thank you for the extraordinary outpouring of love our family has received. I'm Debbie Loucks, and this has been Horsemanship Radio. Until next time, keep listening to your horse.